If within the environment you're living in, everyone thinks the exact same as you, or wants the others to think the same way as them, well, you're kind of looking like you're in a prison of some sort, a prison of the mind. Because when you are surrounded by people who all think the same, well, they're kind of gonna impose that as an example. Maybe they're not domineering, right? Maybe they're not imposing it specifically on you. But as a child, as you grow up and you see everyone believing the same things, doing the same life rituals, habits, and what so more, you kind of end up automatically programmed to believe that there is no other possible truth, right? Nowadays, if we look into religions, when you look at them, they are nothing else but plain writings and the such. Yes, a lot of people make much more of a fuss out of each of those, but ultimately, it is nothing but a set of beliefs, core values, and the such that people should abide to. Add to those some rituals, some daily rituals, weekly rituals, or the such, and then you have a set of beliefs or a way of life that one should take or one should not take. But with every piece of meaning that represents miserable people's lives, you have people everywhere in the world claiming that their belief is the better one. And I'm not saying necessarily about religions. Many people believe their football team is the better, their belief about this country is better, and mainstream media is also doing a good job when it comes to separating people. So when you look at these things, when people end up saying that their belief is better than someone else's, well, isn't that the prison that they're living in? Because first and foremost, they are slaves of their own belief. They're miserable and lonely, and they kind of, when people are miserable and lonely, they will gladly attach themselves to something instead of communicating with other people, because in misery you feel that you must be alone, because most of your misery also stems from the people around you. Yes, a lot of people around you teaching you how to live life in a bad way, you end up living life in a bad way. So you end up associating other people with pain sooner or later. And when that happens, well, you're slowly building a prison for you where you kind of become what is called prosophobic, right? Or you're afraid of change, you're afraid of progress, because any change might pit you again against your fears, your pains, and whatever bad things you have experienced before. So, if everyone around you thinks the same way and even encourages it or polices it, well, that is indoctrination. You can see it in many parts of the world. Unfortunately, it also happens at a religious level. It doesn't matter what religion we're talking about. I don't think any one of them is less angelic or less demonic in a way than the others. Because, as I said, what is written in a book is written in a book. Whether people want to still hold those books as holy, it is up fully to them. It's not to me. But the very greatest question is who wrote those books? You can't tell me that the creation itself simply descended upon you and gave you a book. Because we're gonna go back to the idea that God actually knows who you are and what you are. If God has this much knowledge over you, why would God be ashamed or angry if you don't follow them? Because if God knows your kind, right, your DNA, your actions, your core, the core of your beings, right, beyond your personality and your convictions and the such, why would God even care much, right? Like he's spinning already the whole cosmos on his finger, right? Why would he care about one single life form on a planet that is nothing else but a speck of dust? Why would you think God would actually be willing to service 8.6 billion people, right? So when you think all these nonsense, you're creating a kind of misery within yourself as well. This is part of your depression. It is much smaller than other sources of depression, but it is still something because it is not the universal truth. The universal truth is very simple if you wanted to hear from a nobody like me, but a lot of the truths in life you might hear from people whom you might think as nobodies. One of the universal truths is that the creation doesn't have any form. And there are multiple, let's say, entities in there, not just one single being. Still, religions are not necessarily wrong because, well, when you can't understand creation, what does it make a difference if it is one single entity or more? Because ultimately, we humans haven't created this whole cosmos, right? We have created some changes only here on this planet and probably a bit around it in space. But ultimately, we humans think way too much about ourselves that we are some pinnacle of evolution. When we look at things, yes, it might look that we're a lot of people on this planet, 8.6. I don't know who the fuck actually counted all the humans, but when you look at the larger scale of life, I would gladly say we're not even 1% of the entirety of life form on this planet. Because all the life forms on this planet, right? We are 8.6 billion people. Maybe there are that many ants in a square kilometer in a single city. Maybe. I don't know. Probably, let's say 10 square kilometers. I don't know. You ask nature, right? But if you go in a forest, well, a forest is definitely not having buildings and things that can obstruct its development. So obviously you might have probably 8.6 billion ants in a forest, right? And how many forests are there in the world? So we're not even 1% of this. If all of us humans disappear, most likely nature wouldn't feel the disappearance of life forms on its surface, right? 1% life forms, I mean, come on, we're making way more genocides than that. We're doing genocides against our own kind, and we're also participating directly and indirectly towards killing of animals, right? From bacteria to the greatest animals, right? They say the food industry requires the killing of around 52 billion animals so that you can serve your meat on your plate, right? So now you have all those idiots who think, well, cows no longer have to be killed because you can buy the meat from the supermarket, right? Well, a lot of idiots on the planet, but, well, what can you expect from a society that is teaching you to be exactly like that? And this goes back to the title and what I've said in the beginning. When everyone thinks and functions the same way as you do, well, that comes as a big problem because ultimately, well, you're kind of in a prison, ultimately, because there you're not allowed to think otherwise. If it is a conscious society where people think similarly, that might be a difference because in a conscious society, people don't or wouldn't mind much if someone thinks otherwise. But when you think about a miserable society, a ignorant society like the one we live in, well, then that's a big problem because people, when they become prosophobic, when they become attached to their pieces of meaning, that becomes indistinguishably a part of their survival. It is an illusion ultimately because if you take it as a slight example, if all of us humans disappear, all our culture, including religions, including, non-religious writings as well, like literature, right? And even our sciences, right? All of those will perish with us. There will be nothing left of it other than the machines and the creations we have done. But all the writings and the such, they will also dwindle, but religion, literature, and the such will obviously vanquish, right? There will be no more this, no more that. Yes, the books will remain, but I doubt aliens would be too interested in these forms of life, because if they're advanced enough, maybe they also know parts of their history as well. They might be interested in our history in a way because probably to them, if they're capable of going from one solar system to another or even one galaxy to another, we're very distant relatives of their evolution in a way, right? We are very interesting coordinates of their evolution because, we're at a very primitive level of life still, right? A very primitive level of existence is that where separation still exists. Because separation is countered by evolution and spirituality. Religion is not spirituality. A lot of people make this stupid mistake. Religion is all about, teaching you about something else, but a lot of the miserable people try to seek God through their senses. They go to the church to see God on the icons and, the angels and whatever each religion has, right? The writings and the such. But ultimately, religion is pushed in a way by the simple minded people as if it has to be seen, it has to be heard. And there are also the other people who say that, much like Jesus said, you can only enter my Father's kingdom through me. So you only need someone else. Yes, with Jesus it's kind of understandable in a way because Jesus is not a human that you attune yourself to. It is a way of life in the end. And it is a set of writings, it is a set of beliefs, but it is a set of beliefs that if one incorporates, they might end up living a better life if they do it in a conscious way. With any religion, it is like that because each religion has their own virtues that they present. As I've always said, don't bother wasting your time with the idea of the people of the religion necessarily and their history. Look at the virtues that each and every religion is supporting and try to incorporate as much of those as possible in your life. Because all those people lived, they have perished, but they lived their purpose, they lived their lives. You don't have to live their life. You are probably not gonna live their life because the times have completely changed. Yes? So if you want to live as an example, this day, with all the internet and all the possibilities, you have so much more chances. And if we are to look at this, yet again, when you show yourself as an example, probably many will follow. If you are a conscious example, many will follow, and well, a more conscious society may be built. If it is yet again an ignorant society that is built, well, we go back to the title, right? Living in such a society means, well, you're gonna live in a prison nonetheless. Hopefully this video raised a bit of awareness. You're appreciated. Take care. Enjoy life. And this being said, Ferenc John Board signing out.